So my dear children, in the earlier chapter we discussed several MCQ questions and the questions related to our textbook. Within this chapter we'll be discussing several essay type questions, right? So let's head on to see what are our questions. First question given here, so you have to write down the correct answers in these spaces given. So first question given, define photosynthesis. So you know that photosynthesis is the process of creating simple food by utilizing carbon dioxide and water as raw materials by chlorophyll containing cells with the help or with the use of solar energy. Okay. Once again, my dear children, what do you mean by photosynthesis? Creation of simple food within the chlorophyll containing cells by the help of carbon dioxide or by utilizing carbon dioxide and water upon having solar energy or light energy. So we can write our answer like this: production of simple food in bracket glucose by using carbon dioxide and water right? So production of simple food within brackets glucose by using carbon dioxide and water in chlorophyll containing cells using solar energy. So this is what do you mean by photosynthesis? Production of simple food like glucose by using carbon dioxide and water in chlorophyll containing cells using solar energy, right? So this is what do you mean by photosynthesis, my dear children. Next one, write 2 examples for photosynthetic organisms. 2 examples for photosynthetic organisms means 2 organisms that can carry out photosynthesis. Green plants. You know that each and every green plant is going to do photosynthesis. Then number 2, green algae. Right? Green algae is also going to do photosynthesis. So these are 2 animals or 2 organisms that can perform photosynthesis. Green plants and green algae. 2 photosynthetic organisms, 2 autotrophic organisms. Right then. Next question. What are the main raw materials used for photosynthesis? So my dear children, raw materials are the material which is being utilized by the plant during the production of simple food or during the photosynthesis process. So during the photosynthesis process, the 2 main things or the two main substances which is being absorbed by the plant is carbon dioxide and water. So these are the two main raw materials contained within the plant, right? These are the two main raw materials which is being absorbed by the plant for the photosynthesis process. So number 1 we can write carbon dioxide gas. Carbon dioxide gas. Number 2, second one is water. These are the two main raw materials which utilized for the process of photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide gas and water. Write the internal factor essential for photosynthesis. In which organelle of a cell does this factor being produced? So the internal factor which is important for the photosynthesis, this factor is not getting from the outside. Within the cells of the plants or organisms, this factor should be available. So within the cell of the plant, the factor which is available is the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is produced within the chloroplast of a cell. Chloroplast. Okay. So we can write the answer. Chlorophyll then chlorophyll is present within or it is produced within chloroplast. Chloroplast. Chloroplast is the special organelle, right? Organelle. Special, that is the special organelle which the chlorophyll is getting produced. Okay, chlorophyll is getting produced within the chloroplast of the cell. Okay, chloroplast. Right, then the next question. What is the main product created during photosynthesis? The main product created during photosynthesis is simple foods, right? Glucose. Glucose is the simplest type of food which is getting produced during the photosynthesis process, my dear children. So answer for this question will be glucose. Simple food. Glucose or simple foods. Next one, what is the byproduct created during photosynthesis? How it is getting expelled from the plant? So asking about the byproduct. The byproduct created during the photosynthesis is oxygen gas. Oxygen gas is the byproduct which is created. So how oxygen gas is getting expelled from the plant? Oxygen gas is getting expelled from the plant by the process of diffusion, right? Diffusion is the process which helps to expel oxygen gas which is getting produced within the plant leaf upon photosynthesis, right? So expelled by diffusion. It is expelled by diffusion, right? So the byproduct which is created during the photosynthesis is, right, the byproduct which is getting created is the oxygen gas and it is getting expelled by diffusion, right? Write the ways of getting main factors needed for photosynthesis by plants. So main factors needed for photosynthesis. So main factors needed for photosynthesis, 3 factors are obtained from the environment, whilst 1 factor, chlorophyll, is an internal factor. Okay, chlorophyll is an internal factor. Other 3 are getting absorbed or getting received from the environment. Okay, so we'll write down the 3 factors. So chlorophyll is an internal factor. It is already available within the plant. So no need to write down those one, that one, my dear children. Other 3 are important. Okay, so we'll write it down. Number 1, carbon dioxide gas. So carbon dioxide gas is getting absorbed by diffusion. Carbon dioxide gas is getting absorbed by diffusion, right, through stomata. So absorbed by diffusion through stomata, carbon dioxide gas. Then the second factor, right, the second factor, water. You know that water getting absorbed by the plant by the process of osmosis through root hairs. Okay, absorbed by osmosis through root hairs. Through root hair. Then next one, number 3. Number 3 is solar energy. Light energy. So solar energy or light energy is getting absorbed by chlorophyll. So absorbed by chlorophyll. Right, so these are the 3 main factors which are important for photosynthesis, my dear children. The 4th factor, chlorophyll, that is an internal factor. So carbon dioxide gas absorbed by diffusion through stomata. Water absorbed by osmosis through root hair. Number 3, solar energy or light energy absorbed by chlorophyll. Right, so these are the factors essential for photosynthesis and the way these factors are being absorbed by the plant. Right. Mention photosynthesis using a word equation. So you have to mention photosynthesis by using a word equation. So when I was discussing those questions related to photosynthesis, or there when I was discussing about the MCQ questions. I wrote the photosynthesis equation. So we're going to rewrite. Let's remind and rewrite the photosynthesis equation. So the two main raw materials used during the photosynthesis process is, my dear children, carbon dioxide and water. So with the help of chlorophyll and solar energy, right? Carbon dioxide gas and water with the help of chlorophyll and solar energy getting converted to glucose and oxygen gas, getting converted to glucose and oxygen gas, right? So carbon dioxide gas and water with the help of chlorophyll and solar energy is getting converted into glucose and oxygen gas. This is the photosynthesis process by using a word equation. Right then, what is the special name given for photosynthetic organisms? So the special name given for photosynthetic organism is autotrophic organisms, as they can produce their own food. So autotrophic organism. Autotrophic organism. Mention the special name given for organisms who depend on photosynthetic organisms. Now we have to mention the special name given for the other organisms, other type of organisms who are depending on autotrophic organisms. Simple, right? Heterotrophic organisms. So autotrophic organisms are the ones which can produce their own food. The ones which can't produce their own food are referred as heterotrophic organisms, right? So you can mention this thing as depend on autotrophic organisms. So heterotrophic organisms, they are the ones who are going to depend on autotrophic organisms. So the special name given for photosynthetic organism is autotrophic organism. Then the special name given for the organism who depend on photosynthetic organisms is the heterotrophic organisms. Those are the ones which are going to depend on autotrophic organisms. Right. Write 3 uses of photosynthesis which helps for the survival of biosphere. For the survival of biosphere, what are the importance of, or what are the uses of photosynthesis? So we'll write down, my dear children, what are the importance of photosynthesis for the survival of biosphere. To maintain the balance between oxygen gas and the carbon dioxide gas in the atmosphere. Maintains the balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen gas, right? So it maintains the balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen gas. This is the first main important use of photosynthesis. Number 2, the main process which produce food necessary for the organisms So it is the main process which produces food necessary for the organisms in biosphere. So for all the organisms who are living in our biosphere, photosynthesis is the main process which is going to produce food. So it is the main process which produces food necessary for the organisms in biosphere. Number 3. Earlier I was writing absorption of carbon dioxide gas, which is helpful for the maintenance of proper temperature within the atmosphere. But rather than that, you know that oxygen gas is given out from photosynthesis. So I am writing most important ones. That is also correct, but oxygen gas is way more important than that. Releasing oxygen gas to the environment is very important for the respiration and for the combustion of materials. The main process which releases oxygen gas to the environment is the photosynthesis, which is important in respiration of organisms as well as combustion of substances. So release of oxygen gas which is important for respiration of organisms combustion of substances. Right. So you've been asked to write down 3 main important facts about the photosynthesis towards the biosphere. So I have written 3. Number 1, it maintains the balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen gas. The main process which produces food necessary for the organisms in biosphere. Main process that is going to produce food necessary for the organisms. Release of oxygen gas, which is important for respiration of organisms and combustion of substances. For the combustion of substances and for the respiration of organisms, oxygen is really important. So photosynthesis is the main process which is going to help in releasing the, oxygen gas, which is essential for these two processes. So these are the main uses or main importances of photosynthesis for the survival of biosphere in our world. Right. What is called as diffusion then? Diffusion. Diffusion means, my dear children, movement of particles from an area that has higher concentration to an area that has lower concentration. Random movement of particles, right? Random movement of particles to a place of high concentration, from a place of high concentration to a place of lower concentration. This is what do you mean by, right? This is what do you mean by the diffusion. So it's really simple, my dear children. We'll write it down. Random movement of particles from higher concentrated area to a lower concentrated area. Lower concentrated area is called diffusion. This is what do you mean by diffusion. So random movement of particles from higher concentrated area to a lower concentrated area. Okay, we have to mention area in here. Area is called diffusion. Right. So random movement of particles from higher concentrated area to a lower concentrated area is called diffusion. So movement of particles from higher concentrated area to a lower concentrated area is the one which is referred as diffusion. Next one, write two materials that exchange by diffusion. Two materials that is getting exchanged by diffusion. So I'm going to write several materials in here. Oxygen gas through stomata. Then carbon dioxide gas once again by or through stomata. right? Oxygen gas through stomata is getting diffused into the plant and out of the plant. Carbon dioxide gas is getting diffused into the plant and out of the plant by diffusion. Then water vapor. Water vapor by stomata. Upon respiration, so these are the substances which is getting diffused in and out from the plant. Okay, materials which is getting diffused in and out from the plant. Oxygen both in and out during the process of photosynthesis, getting out during the process of respiration, getting in through the process of diffusion. Carbon dioxide gas during the process of respiration, getting out, during the process of photosynthesis, getting in. Water vapor upon respiration, getting out from the plant, right? All of these particles are getting expelled or absorbed through stomata by the process of diffusion, my dear children. So oxygen, carbon dioxide and water vapor, these particles getting exchanged by the process of diffusion. Right, 3 examples where diffusion is used by the plant. 3 examples where diffusion is used by the plant, right? Diffusion is used by the plant. So here we need to write down in which case what is the material, okay? So diffusion of oxygen during respiration. Diffusion of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Right? Diffusion of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, then diffusion of oxygen during respiration, then diffusion of water vapor during respiration. During respiration, as a byproduct, water vapor is getting diffused to the environment, right, through stomata. So these are 3 examples where diffusion is used by the plant. Right. Next one. Right, 3 materials that exchange by diffusion. 3 materials. So earlier we wrote 2 materials, now we'll write down 3, okay? Carbon dioxide, oxygen, then water vapor. So in the earlier question we wrote in detail. So therefore in here I'm just going to mention only the material itself. That's it. Okay, right. So carbon dioxide gas, oxygen gas and water vapor are the three materials that exchange by diffusion. So examples where diffusion is used by the plant is diffusion of oxygen during respiration, diffusion of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, diffusion of water vapor during respiration. Right. Write the short meanings for given. Number 1, permeable membrane. Permeable membrane means it's a membrane that allows to pass each and every particle through it. Okay, it allows to pass each and every particle through it. Semi-permeable membrane means only selected particles can pass through it, pass through the membrane. Impermeable means no particle can enter or exit through the membrane. Okay, so we'll write down all particles can enter or exit. All particles can enter or exit through the membrane. All particles can enter or exit through the membrane, right? Semi-permeable membrane, only selected particles within brackets I'll include water can enter or exit through the membrane. Right, only selected particles like water can enter or exit through the membrane. Then impermeable membrane means here no particle can enter or exit through the membrane. No particle can enter or exit. No particle can enter or exit through the membrane. So no particle can enter or exit through the membrane. So my dear children, these are the membranes: permeable membranes, semi-permeable membranes, impermeable membranes. So permeable membrane means all particles can enter or exit through the membrane. Semi-permeable membrane means only selected particles like water can enter or exit through the membrane. Impermeable membrane means no particle can enter or exit through the membrane, right? Permeable, semi-permeable, impermeable. Right then. Define osmosis. So you know that osmosis is the process which is going to happen through a semi-permeable membrane. So this process is the diffusion. So diffusion of water particles especially that occurs through a semi-permeable membrane is referred as osmosis, right? Diffusion of selected particles or water, right, through a semi-permeable membrane is called the osmosis. So we can write diffusion of particles. Here particles means water, right? Diffusion of particles through a semi-permeable diffusion of particles through a semi-permeable membrane is called osmosis. So diffusion of particles, especially water, through a semi-permeable membrane is called osmosis. Diffusion which is going to happen through a semi-permeable membrane is called as osmosis, my dear children. Next one, write a use of osmosis for the plant. So you know that water is getting absorbed by the plant by the process of osmosis. So the main use of osmosis is the absorption of water by root hairs. Okay, root hairs absorb water. Root hairs absorb water by osmosis, right? Root hairs absorb water by osmosis, right? So this is the use of osmosis for the plant. Right then, so let's head on to see what are the other questions. Next one is given, define mass flow. Now what do you mean by mass flow, my dear children? Mass flow is the transportation of photosynthetic substances with the use of energy, right? Transportation of photosynthetic substances, right, with the use of energy, especially through phloem tissues, right? So this is the process which is called as mass flow. So we can write our answer, transporting photosynthetic products by utilizing energy through phloem tissue is called mass flow, right? So transporting photosynthetic products by utilizing energy through phloem tissue is called mass flow. So this is what do you mean by mass flow, my dear children. Here energy is being used. For osmosis and diffusion, energy is not being used. However, for mass flow, energy is very important. Energy is very important for the process of mass flow. Then the next question, write a use of mass flow for the plant. So you know that the sugar solution which is getting prepared after the process of photosynthesis, you know that starch is the one which is temporarily getting stored within the plant leaf. However, starch is getting converted to a sugar solution and getting transported all around the plant part through the phloem tissue. So this transportation of food within the phloem tissue is going to happen as a unit, as a single unit upon mass flow. So mass flow helps in transporting food all around the plant parts with the help of phloem tissue. So here we can write our answer. Transportation of food. Transportation of food by phloem tissue. So transportation of food by phloem tissue is going to happen mainly through mass flow process. Right. So let's move on with the next question. So question number 20, write the main methods of transportation in plants with an example each. So there are three main processes in transportation. There are three main processes. So you have to write down those three with an example each. So number one, my dear children, diffusion. Diffusion. We can write for diffusion an example, diffusion of oxygen from photosynthesis. Right? So diffusion of oxygen by photosynthesis. Diffusion. Number two, osmosis. Osmosis. Absorption of water by root hairs. Absorption of water by root hairs. Absorption of water by root hairs. Number three, mass flow. Mass flow. For mass flow, you can include, right? Mass flow, you can include transportation of food prepared through phloem tissue. Right. So diffusion, for diffusion an example, diffusion of oxygen by photosynthesis. For osmosis, absorption of water by root hairs. For mass flow, transportation of food by phloem tissue. So these are the examples and the method of transportation that can be observed within a plant, my dear children. Right, so we'll head on to see the next question. What is called as transpiration? So transpiration, my dear children, really simple. Transpiration means removal of water as a form of vapor through the stomata of the plant leaf. Right? Through the stomata of the plant leaf, removal of water by evaporation or as a gaseous medium. So removal of water in the gaseous state or as water vapor by the stomata of plant leaves is called, this is the one which is called as transpiration. So we can write removing water vapor from stomata by evaporation is called transpiration. Right, this is called as transpiration. So transpiration means in the sense removing water vapor. Water vapor is really important, my dear children, from stomata by evaporation. Okay, and this is called as the transpiration. Right, 3 uses of transpiration. So 3 uses of transpiration, my dear children. So 3 uses of transpiration. Number 1, helps to cool the plant. Helps to cool the plant. Number 2, helps to transport water right? It helps to transport water to the upper part of the body. To the upper parts of the plant. To the upper part of the plant body. Okay, plant is enough. So it helps, mainly it helps to cool the plant, and it also helps to transport water to the upper part or to the upper parts of the plant. Then number 3, helps to maintain water cycle. So it helps to maintain water cycle in biosphere. Right? Helps to maintain water cycle in biosphere. Here they are not mentioning whether for the plant or whether for any other factors or any other term. So therefore we can write anything. Right? If they are specially mentioning about the plant, then we have to write down the uses or the importance of transpiration only for the plant itself. but however they are never mentioned in that thing, so we can write this maintaining of water cycle in biosphere as well. Right, so these are the uses of transpiration then. Okay, these are the uses of transpiration then. Next question. Why does transpiration should be minimized in plants that grow in arid area? So why does transpiration should be minimized in plants that grow in arid area? Because upon high rate of transpiration, there is a probability that more water may lose from the plant and the plant would die because of that. Okay. In simple, we can say that it helps to keep the optimum water level within the plant. Right? It helps to keep the optimum water level within the plant. So that's why in arid areas, the transpiration rate should be minimized. So we can write our answer. It helps to minimize the excess loss of water to the atmosphere. Right? So it helps to minimize the excess loss of water to the atmosphere. Right. So transpiration should be minimized in plants that grow in arid areas in order to minimize the excess loss of water to the atmosphere, right? To minimize the excess loss. Right, 3 adaptations of plants to minimize transpiration. Provide an example as well. Right. So we'll write down 3 adaptations. Number 1, having fleshy leaves. Having fleshy leaves. For an example, aloe. Number 2, having waxy cuticle. Having waxy cuticle. Example, temple trees. Having waxy cuticle. Example, temple tree. Then leaves are reduced to spines. Right? Leaves are reduced to spines or spikes. Example, cactus, right? Cactus. Then you can write another one having thin leaves, an extra one. Having thin leaves, example, khasa. Having thin leaves, example, khasa. Right, so these are the methods of minimizing transpiration with an example, my dear children. So having fleshy leaves, alloy, having waxy cuticle, temple tree, leaves are reduced to spines, cactus, having thin leaves, khasa. Okay then. What is called guttation? What is called as guttation, my dear children? Removal of water in droplet form by heterotrophs in leaves. Removal of water in droplets or as water droplets by heterotrophs within leaves is called guttation. So we can write removing of water in liquid form, removing of water in liquid form by heterotrophs of leaves is called guttation. Right. So removing of water in liquid form by heterotrophs, right? By heterotrophs of leaves is called guttation. Right? This is the one which is called as guttation. Next one, write 3 differences between transpiration and guttation. So you have write down 3 differences between guttation and transpiration. So I'll take the slide somewhat up and I'm going to use a table in here. Right, I'm going to use a table so that I can differentiate very well. Right. So here transpiration. Here guttation. Right? Transpiration and guttation. So number 1, transpiration mainly going to occur from stomata of the plant leaf. Occurs mainly from stomata. Right? Occur from stomata. But guttation occur from heterotrophs. right? Occur from heterotrophs. Number 2. So transpiration, it's going to release water as vapor. But guttation, it releases water in liquid form. Release water in liquid form. Then if you take transpiration, transpiration mainly occurs at daytime, but however, guttation mainly occurs at night time. Mainly occur at daytime. Actually, it is going to occur in both day and night time, but mainly it is occurring rarely at night time, more often in daytime. Transpiration, but guttation mainly occurring at night time only. Okay. Mainly occur at night time. Differences between transpiration and guttation, my dear children. Here we go then. So transpiration, it occur from stomata. It release water as vapor. It mainly occur at daytime. Guttation occur from heterotrophs, release water in liquid form, mainly occur at night time. Right? So these are the differences between transpiration and guttation. Right, my dear children? So let's move on to see other questions. Right. So the third question, now we have answered several essay type questions. Right. Now we are coming to the third main question. Right. So in the third question, my dear children, it is given answer the questions given using the figures. So you have to use these figures in answering the questions. So first and foremost, a figure is given. So this is the starch test. So what is the purpose of this experiment? In here, the purpose is preparing the plant leaf for the starch test. Okay. Within this experiment, we are going to prepare a plant leaf for the starch test. So we can write our answer. Preparing plant leaf, preparing plant leaf for the starch test. Preparing plant leaf for the starch test. That is the main purpose of this experiment. Next one. Why do we need to boil the leaf in hot water? So by boiling the leaf in hot water, we are going to increase the permeability. Right? We are going to increase the permeability of substances in and out from the plant leaf. Especially here, we are going to destroy or we are going to break the cell walls of the plant cells in order to increase the permeability. Okay. So to make more permeable, we are going to destroy the cell walls upon boiling in water. So it helps to destroy cell walls in the leaf. It helps to destroy cell walls in the leaf. So upon destroying the cell walls, the leaf is becoming more permeable for the entry and exit of particles. That by only we can remove that chlorophyll by utilizing alcohol. Right then. What is the purpose of boiling leaf in alcohol? So the purpose of boiling leaf in alcohol is to remove chlorophyll, right? Removal of chlorophyll. To dissolve and remove chlorophyll. Right? So purpose of boiling leaf in alcohol is to dissolve and remove chlorophyll. Why we can't boil alcohol directly under the flame? I told you that alcohol is a highly combustible substance. So therefore we can't boil that alcohol container directly under a flame, because alcohol is a combustible substance. So it is dangerous. So we can write the answer because alcohol is a combustible right? Because alcohol is a combustible liquid. So as alcohol is a combustible liquid, it is not safe to keep alcohol directly under a flame. It may explode as it is combustible. Okay? Right. What is the color of leaf after the process? So after this process, what would be the color of leaf? So leaf will get a pale white or yellow color upon dissolving all chlorophyll in alcohol solution. The final color of the leaf would be pale yellow color or pale white color. So pale yellow color. Due to removing chlorophyll. Due to removing chlorophyll, we can observe a pale yellow color within the leaf after this process. To which color does the alcohol turns after boiling the leaf? State reason. So you know that alcohol will turn into green color, greenish color. It's because of dissolving chlorophyll within the alcohol solution. So our answer should be green color. Reason for this thing would be because of because of dissolving chlorophyll. Right? Because of dissolving chlorophyll, it will take a green color. So green color should be the answer because of dissolving chlorophyll. Right then. Name the component which is identified here. State the chemical that is used to identify the above component. Now I told you that here we are preparing the plant leaf for the starch test. So the component that we are going to test in here is the presence of starch. So starch is the component which is identified by this experiment. To identify starch, we use iodine solution as the chemical, right? So my dear children, the component is starch. Then chemical used chemical that we are using to identify the above component is the iodine solution. Iodine solution. So component that we are going to use is starch, and the chemical that we are going to use in identification process is iodine solution. Okay. Iodine solution and starch. State the color change that occurs here with the presence of above component. So with the presence of above component, with the presence of starch, you have to mention the color change. So I'm going to write it by using that distinct color. So you know that right? You know that our iodine solution, right? Our iodine solution, it has a brownish yellow color. So brownish yellow color iodine solution, same as the color that I have used in this smart board. Okay, then it's getting converted into, okay, it's getting converted into with the presence of starch. Right, so I'm going to use that color, the blackish blue one. Okay, so it's like blackish blue is like this kind of a color. Okay, so dark blue color. So this is the color change that we can observe. Brownish yellow iodine solution with the presence of starch, it is getting converted into dark blue color, right? So this is the color change that we can observe when starch is present with the iodine solution, right? Next question. So second question regarding the figures. So here you know that there is a gas which is getting collected for the water upon the water trough, and there is a gas jar, and there is a gas which is getting collected, light energy which is coming towards the system, and there is a water trough with water, some aquatic plants. So you know that from this experiment we can collect the gas which is going to emit during the process of photosynthesis. During the process of photosynthesis, you know that oxygen gas is the one which is getting collected, right? So let's see what is the purpose of this experiment. So the purpose of this experiment is to show that oxygen gas is released during photosynthesis. Okay, oxygen gas is released during photosynthesis. Oxygen gas is released, right? Oxygen gas is released during photosynthesis. So upon photosynthesis, here we are showing that oxygen gas is going to release, right? Oxygen gas is going to release during photosynthesis. That is the whole purpose of doing this kind of an experiment, to show that oxygen gas is going to release during photosynthesis. Next one, state the method of identifying gas emitted here. So you have to explain, or you have to write down the method to identify the gas which is getting emitted here. So to identify this gas, we inserted a lighted splinter. When a lighted splinter is added, a bright flame is given by reacting with the gas inside the container. As oxygen gas is a good supporter of combustion, a bright flame can be observed within the splinter. So we can write when a lighted splinter is added, right? When a lighted splinter is added, a bright flame can be right. When a lighted splinter is added, a bright flame can be observed. So this is the way of identifying the gas which is going to emit from this experiment. Okay, then next one, write 3 uses of above gas. 3 uses of oxygen gas, my dear children. So number 1, oxygen gas is very important gas for the respiration of organisms. So it's very important for the respiration of organisms. So number 1, for the respiration of organisms, right? For the respiration of organisms, oxygen gas is really important. Number 2, for the combustion of substances, right? For the combustion of substances, you know that oxygen gas is really important for the combustion of substances. Then Number 3, in welding purposes, my dear children, okay, in welding purposes, so in welding purposes, these welders are using or are generating special kinds of flames which are referred as oxyacetylene flame. Here the oxygen is getting mixed up with acetylene gas to produce oxyacetylene flame. So in welding purposes, oxygen tanks are being utilized specially in order to produce a high temperature flame, oxyacetylene flame. So in welding purposes, right, in welding purposes, right, in welding purposes, example, produce oxy right, oxyacetylene flame. To produce oxyacetylene flame, we use, right, we use this oxygen gas. So for the respiration of organisms and for the combustion of substances, oxygen gas is pretty much important. Other than that, like in welding purposes, we use oxygen. For an example, to produce oxyacetylene flame, we use this oxygen gas in containers. Right then, the next question. So here you are given with a thistle funnel, a salt solution, cellophane layer is there, and condis, you know that condis is there as there is color, right, and some water. What happens after few hours? So this is really simple, my dear children. Here we are investigating about the osmotic process. So you know that here there is large amount of water, but within the thistle funnel, less amount of water. So after few hours, the water level in the thistle funnel would go up. Okay, liquid level in the thistle funnel will go up. Right, liquid level in the thistle funnel goes up, right, liquid level in the thistle funnel goes up. What will happen to the color of condensed solution? So you know that liquid level in the thistle funnel going up because of diffusion of water into the thistle funnel through that cellophane paper. So upon having or upon adding water, the condensed color of the condensed is going to fade. So what will happen to the color of condensed solution? Color will fade. Color will fade. Right then. Write an alternative that can be used for cellophane membrane. For the cellophane layer or for the cellophane paper, we can use an egg membrane. Egg membrane. Next one. What is the transportation method which observed here? Real simple, my dear children. Transpiration method which can be observed here. Here you can observe the cellophane layer, right? Here you can observe the cellophane layer, means this is osmosis, right? It's really simple, osmosis. Right then, so these are the answers for the question number 3 and question number 4, my dear children. So let's move on with the next question. So in the next question, write one example for the above process. So you know that this is osmosis. So you have to provide one example. So we wrote several examples for the osmosis process. You know that root hairs are going to absorb water through the osmosis process. So you can write water by root hairs. We can observe this process. So my dear children, we answer several questions, several essay type questions related to our lesson part. So more questions are coming in our next chapter, my dear children. So I'm hoping to finish up this chapter from this lesson, from this question. Okay, so within our next chapter we'll discuss some further question types related to the biological processes in plants. So I'll hope that you stay with me to discuss some different types of questions from our next chapter.